We are now calling the joint meeting of the Cotati City Council and successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting to order. Can we please begin with a roll call vote?
Councilmember Rivers,
Here.
Councilmember Lemus,
Here.
Councilmember Harvey,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ford,
Here.
Mayor Sparks.
Here, I'm sorry, I just meant roll call, not roll call vote. Sorry. Okay, we are now going to do a land acknowledgement and pledge of allegiance. I invite you to stand to join us in that. The city of Cotati recognizes that we are on the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous peoples who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land that we are on. And now we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on August 27th. Does anyone have any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? Okay, hearing nothing, we will go ahead and open it up for public comment about the minutes from our last meeting. So if anyone in the chambers would like to make a comment about the minutes, this would be your chance. All right, could we open it up to Zoom, please?
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a public comment on approval of the minutes. Mayor Sparks, that will end public comment.
Okay, I'd be looking for a motion.
Move to approve the minutes from August 27.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining, Mayor Sparks.
Okay, so that passes 4-0 with Vice Mayor Ford abstaining. I will, please bear with me while I read some announcements. This is a meeting orientation for new attendees and viewers. In conformance with the Brown Act and the adopted City Council rules, the meeting agenda includes items labeled as action items where the City Council may consider the item. If the City Council considers the item, citizens will be afforded the opportunity to provide comments relevant to the item being discussed. The meeting agenda also includes a citizens' business item, which is the designated place on the agenda where citizens have the right to say whatever they wish. However, the Brown Act prohibits the City Council from taking action or considering any item that is not on this agenda to ensure that other members of the community who wish to provide comment are notified in advance through a properly noticed meeting agenda. Measure S supports police services, a variety of recreation programs for all ages, and the maintenance of our streets, parks, and public buildings. See details on the web at cotaticity.org. Citizens interested in receiving City of Cotati community alerts via text or email are encouraged to enroll with Civic Ready by signing up on the city's website, www.cotaticity.org, under the How Do I link at the top of the homepage. Like always, we love to hear from you, so please feel free to contact the city at 707-792-4600 or info@cotaticity.org. If you have a non-emergency issue after normal business hours, you can contact us at 707-792-4611. And of course, if you have an emergency, please contact 911. Continue to look for updates on the city's website and social media channels available on Facebook, Instagram, and Civic Ready. All right, now tonight we have the pleasure of having several proclamations that we're going to do. I think we're waiting on a speaker to arrive for one of them, so we're going to reorder the order that we do them in just slightly, and we will read the National Service Dog Month proclamation first. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati declaring September 2024 to be National Service Dog Month. Whereas we believe in the joyful, transformative power of the human-canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens, and whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability, and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited training programs exist nationwide, and the need is growing, and whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships. And whereas Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. And whereas National Service Dog Month aims to educate our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting them, and whereas the City of Cotati continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens and their service dogs are embraced. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed on this day of September 10th, 2024, by the City Council of the City of Cotati that September 2024 is National Service Dog Month in recognition of service dogs and the adults and children with disabilities in our community, and the City Council encourages all citizens to celebrate service dogs and be respectful of the rights afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. And I believe we have some folks from Canine Companions. I'd like to invite you to come up and say a few words.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor, city leaders. My name is Benjamin Veith. I'm a former staff sergeant in the United States Air Force. I enlisted after 9/11 and became an aircraft mechanic. My journey took me to Texas, Oklahoma, 2 years in South Korea, and finally to support the vice presidential mission in Maryland. I gave my life to serve our country for over 12 years, to defend the Constitution of the United States. After my enlistment, I enrolled in school and completed my degree in occupational health and safety. In 2017, I returned home to Sonoma County. I was not the same person before I left. I am a veteran with PTSD. I have a service dog. This is Mateo. Mateo was born in Healdsburg from a breeder named Darcy. Once he could fly at 9 weeks, he was raised in San Diego. After a year, Mateo could fly again. He returned home to the Canine Companions campus. Mateo was trained by Bella. She and Mateo would spend 6 months worth of training. Once Mateo passed all of his tests, he was given a home with me and I a home with him. He is my friend, my hope. In 1975, Charles Schultz had a vision, a dream that dogs could help us with disabilities. That dream became a reality. I stand before you with Mateo, a reality that I did not think possible. However, I had the courage to admit that I needed help. I asked for it, and I got it. There were times when I did not think that was possible or that I earned it. There are others who were wounded, who gave their life or came back and were not the same. There are times when I still don't, when I don't think that I can make it. Throughout my days and my nights, I do struggle. I can become incapacitated. I do get scared and I have nightmares and I feel alone. There are moments when it can become too much. And in those moments, Mateo is here with me. He helps me feel less afraid. In the moments that I do get scared, he stands beside me, ready to help. Anxiety interruption and nightmare interruption. Although sometimes I think he just wants a treat. But I have those too. Because of Mateo's abilities that Bella taught him, I can, for the most part, lead what some would say is a normal life. I do not feel I cannot, but that I can. Currently, my job is to ensure the safety of City of Healdsburg employees, that at the end of their day, they can go home to their families, their friends, and their loved ones. Mateo helps me so that I can help others, so that they can make their world a better place. I didn't ask to have PTSD. I recognized that I had and asked for help. Because of Charles Schultz's dream, Darcy's kindness to breed puppies, a puppy raiser all the way in San Diego, and Bella's ability to be an amazing trainer, Mateo and I could stand here with you all, a person with this ability to make the world a better place, to offer hope and kindness. And as I look out today, I see many faces who are a part of that community, to offer that hope to others. And in the moments that they think that they can't, there is a paw on their hand in support. I am grateful for so many things. I am appreciative for Mateo, and I thank this community for their help as a reminder that there is help. I will help you. I have treats. And I'm a veteran with PTSD. Mateo is my friend. He is my canine companion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Can we come present this to you and take a picture together?
Yes.
Make sure to get Mateo.
My laughs are not like that.
Well, I thought it was great when we had Dolly here, but we had 3 dogs tonight. 3 times as good. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Mayor, Ben Ford, who is our representative on the Russian River Watershed Association.
Thank you. So I'm happy to read the second proclamation today. This is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati proclaiming the week of September 16th to 23rd, 2024 as Pollution Prevention Week and September 22nd to 29th as Creek Week in the Russian River watershed. Whereas throughout the United States, the week starting on the third Monday of September is recognized as National Pollution Prevention Week. And whereas throughout much of California, including the Russian River watershed, cities, counties, and other stewardship organizations are recognizing the fourth week of September as Creek Week. And whereas our pollution prevention practices are intrinsically linked to the health of our watershed, lands, and waterways, and whereas the Russian River Watershed Association supports programs to reduce pollution, increase the environmental quality of our watershed, and provide our communities with the knowledge to be effective stewards of the Russian River watershed lands and waterways, and whereas the nearly 1,500 square miles of lands, 150 creeks, and approximately 360,000 residents of the Russian River watershed are connected and mutually support each other, and whereas the Russian River, along with its tributaries and associated features, are important resources to the people of Sonoma and Mendocino counties, and whereas pollution in the form of trash and debris, chemicals from industry and everyday living, and sediment from construction and many land uses and activities all have the potential to degrade the quality of life and the quality of resources within the Russian River watershed, and whereas the Russian River Watershed Association strives to protect our lands and waterways through ongoing pollution prevention outreach, which aims to raise awareness of the harmful effects of pollutants to our natural systems, And whereas during Pollution Prevention Week and Creek, River, and Ocean cleanup campaigns will take place throughout Sonoma and Mendocino counties, including our local creek cleanup in the Laguna de Santa Rosa. Now therefore be it proclaimed on this 10th day of September 2024 by the City Council of the City of Cotati that September 16 to 23rd, 2024 is Pollution Prevention Week, and September 22nd to 29th, 2024 is Creek Week in the Russian River watershed, and asks all members of our community to support efforts to protect and enrich our watershed health by participating in the many Pollution Prevention Week and Creek Week activities, including the City of Cotati event hosted on September 21st, and to take active steps to reduce pollution and care for our environment throughout the year. So I'm the Vice Chair of the Russian River Watershed Association Board, and I will present this to the board at its Thursday meeting. And I want to take the opportunity to appreciate our staff efforts this year to have a hosted creek cleanup event for the first time since the pandemic. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And now we have one more proclamation proclaiming September as Latino Heritage Month. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Limas.
Yes, thank you. So proud to present this today. I'm glad the students are here from Rancho Cotati High School. So I wanted to read the proclamation. So this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati proclaiming September 15th to October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month or Latino Heritage Month. Whereas each year the federal, state, and many local governments observe Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th by recognizing and celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And whereas September 15th is significant as a starting date for Latino Heritage Month because it is the anniversary of independence for many Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. And Dia de la Raza, which is October 12th, falls within the same 30-day period. And whereas the observation started in 1968 as Latino Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson, and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending October 15th. Each successive president has called upon the people of our country to observe this month with appropriate respect, ceremonies, activities, and whereas Hispanics and Latinos have made immeasurable contributions to our culture and economy and have been integral to the prosperity and enrichment of Cotati, Sonoma County, and the United States. And whereas the City of Cotati, Hispanic, Latinx community members, business owners, residents, and students continue to foster the culture and tradition as a whole, while also advocating and ensuring a voice on behalf of the Hispanic, Latinx community. With recent focus on immigration, education, health, wellness, financial stability, economic and civic engagement, and social justice. And whereas Hispanic, Latinx continue to enrich our nation's character and contribute to our common future. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month also allows us to honor and celebrate the key leadership roles and accomplishments of Hispanic, Latinx in our community and our shared values. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on this day of September 10th, 2024, by the City Council of the City of Cotati, that September 15th to October 15th, 2024, is Hispanic Heritage Month, and the City Council encourages all citizens and residents to recognize their significant and continuing contributions to our shared culture and continuing prosperity. Thank you, and I'm really glad to have here members from Rancho Cotati High School's Mecha Club, and thank you for the Professor, El Señor Ortega, for allowing to come here. So I believe that the students are going to speak on behalf of their club. Can you proceed to the podium here? All of you can come together, support each other. You're welcome to all come join them. Come and join them.
Hello, my name is Lucas. I am 17 years old. I am a senior at Rancho Cotati High School.
Hi, my name is Layla, and I am a senior at Rancho Cotati High School as well.
Hi, my name is Hasnia, and I'm a senior at Rancho Cotati High School.
Hello, I'm Jasal. I'm a senior at Rancho Cotati High School.
So I'm here to promote our September 21st event. It's going to be at Rancho Cotati High School. It's going to be student-led. And we are just celebrating our culture at the school. It's going to have games, food, prizes, and more. We're also going to have a car show there. And we're just really prideful of our culture. And we just want to promote it more around our school. We don't want to be more hidden, right? We want to show off to the school who we are, right? We don't want the school to be not too plain, but more diverse. And I feel like this is a really good opportunity for us to celebrate our culture. It's going to be, again, on September 21st from 2 to 9. And yeah, we just hope to see you all there. And yeah. Thank you.
Soy parte del Club de Mecha en Rancho Cotati High School y el día de hoy venimos a invitar a todos a celebrar el Día de la Independencia Mexicana, que será el día 21 de septiembre desde las 2 hasta las 9 de la noche. Entradas son gratis y habrá mucha comida de varios países y también habrá una competición de carros. Esperemos verlos ahí ese día. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ustedes. I want to thank you very much for coming, and I'm, proud to be a supporter, and I'll be there on that day. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that information with us. Did you have something else you want to share?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you again for being here and being great representatives. Do some of you live in Cotati or you run at Park, or a mixture? Cotati? Uh-huh. Thank you. Cotati on Run Park. Thank you so much for being here. So I don't know if you guys have comments, you want to take pictures or... Okay.
Yeah, can we present you with the proclamation and get a picture together? Okay.
Mine or yours? Just send it. My phone is really bad quality, guys.
Yes, we'll run up right here. Did you bring cute puppy dogs too?
Okay, here, why don't you guys, what's the mayor? You want the mayor?
Thank you so much for coming and speaking.
In the middle?
I'll just stand up this side. It's okay, you're okay.
Well, these are the most powerful students in the most powerful state here to fulfill their fate as Destiny's Day.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Sorry.
Oh, can we get another one? Right in the back there? Sure, or he can send you his, but yeah, he can take one with.
One more.
We go around to
Thank you. Thank you for coming. And thank you for the invitation. Thank you. That's yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be there.
And have the button.
Okay, so next on our agenda is approval of the final agenda. I believe we had a suggested change, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, I was going to suggest tonight that we move item 12B up to the start of regular calendar. Just basically move it up one spot. We have a consultant on Zoom.
Okay,
For that item.
so there's a proposal to move item 12B first just within the regular agenda section. Are there any objections to that, council? Okay, since we are making this change, we will go ahead and open it up for public comment. Would anyone in the chambers like to comment about that change to the ordering? Okay, can we open it up to Zoom, please?
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on approval of the final agenda. Mayor Sparks, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us right on to the citizens' business and public comment for consent calendar items. Let me read the announcements. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any items listed on the consent calendar or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, The council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on this agenda. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2023-01, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda, and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where a disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the deputy clerk will alert speakers when there are 30 seconds remaining. And I believe I saw a hand up in the chambers. Neil, if you'd like to speak.
Yes, good evening, Council. As part of looking at a lot of other cities and their agendas and what they're doing, one of the things that's come up in Petaluma is that in the consent calendar, they actually publish the next meeting of the council and put the agendas of what's coming up. So in the consent calendar provisional, there's a publication of what the expected next calendar is going to be. And that would be so useful just to get some visibility. I mean, it's not the actual calendar, but it would be what's expected to come up. So anyway, it's very interesting to have a look at that. And I would, if there's any chance of the thinking going on that, that would be a very useful part of the city's transparency. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for your comment. I don't see anyone else in the chamber, so let's go ahead and open it to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. We have a hand from Lori. You have the floor.
Hi. Once again, I would ask that you put code enforcement on the agenda. I've been asking since last November, and you've refused. Not one of you has replied to any email having to do with code enforcement and the scandalous behavior. You've gone, excuse me, for 15 months now, you've gone after a political opponent, you have to have an attorney to be at the administrative level. His proposed fines are over $1 million now. They toll at $4,000 a day, and we are at nowhere near having this resolved. So, and he's the only it's George Barrett, and the only person who is challenging the incumbents, and you have financial control over them because you're controlling the budget for code enforcement, where the code enforcement attorney has spent up to 87% of the code enforcement budget for the whole city in a month on George Barrett's case to go after him. You have spent we estimated about $100,000 in the last year, which is twice his city his budgeted amount, and you've done nothing. You won't put this on the agenda. You put on roundabout bans within 18 appeals within 18 hours, but you can't do this for people, the citizens of Cotati, in over a year of dealing with this scandal. It's ridiculous. And it's election interference that you have control over. George is working 2 jobs just to pay the attorney. He's required to do legal briefs and go to the administrative, to stay at the administrative hearing level. And you've delayed it so much that
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, City Clerk, can you please give an additional minute? I'm sorry. Thank you.
And he says that he works the 2 jobs, and you do nothing. You're setting a precedent too. This is the first hearing in 9 years, and he wrote the code. He prosecutes it. He inspects. He does everything. He commingles everything, and you guys will do nothing after a year about this. he owes, you can access on his tax roll more than his house is worth at this point. And he's your opponent, your only opponent. When are you going to deal with all of this? Put it on the agenda. Anytime this century before the election. It would be nice to have some transparency by you all. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comment.
There are no further hands. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to the consent calendar for tonight. Is there anyone on the council who wishes to pull an item from the consent calendar? No? Okay. In that case, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move.
Go ahead.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that passes unanimously. That brings us to direction on future agenda items. Is there anyone who wishes to... Sorry, we've got a little bit of a hubbub out there. Is there anybody who wishes to suggest an item for a future city council agenda? Yes, go ahead.
So I'm not sure the proper space for this discussion. It may be with the consultant in January, but I would like to discuss the expectations around the 1,500 plus page agendas and the expectation of reading it and being able to vote on it, and you know what that expectation is, especially when we get it on Friday and are expected to vote it on Tuesday. I just very much like to understand what those expectations are and what kind of process might be put in place to get it sooner or trim it if possible, or just what we can do to help. I have, the integrity of voting on something that I've read, or, voting on something that I haven't been able to read to the extent that I want to.
I think just due to being overly cautious about the Brown Act, we can't really get into discussion about it more than just to state what it is and if we want to have it on the agenda.
Okay, I guess I just thought I was explaining why I was asking for it and to help decide how it should be done, because I'm not sure.
So are you proposing that we put this on an agenda between now and then, or that we discuss this at, because I heard different things, discuss this at strategic planning next year?
Well, I'm asking how, I'm not sure. I'm asking what would be the best forum to have that, to discuss it.
City manager, do you have any suggestions for us on this one?
Yeah, I would, if we wanted to have this discussion, it would be about, restructure, it sounds like it would be restructuring how the whole agenda packet system works. So I would suggest, at least some, significant changes to it. So I would suggest that we would do it in the strategic planning.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we will bring that, make sure to note that down and make sure it gets discussed at strategic planning. Okay, any other suggestions for future agenda items? I'm just making a note of that before I forget. Okay, so that takes us to our regular agenda, and as we discussed before, we're going to move up item B and handle that first. Is that with Mr. Hausch or Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Scott? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor, members of the council, Craig Scott, Public Works Director, City Engineer. This item is to consider adopting a resolution which makes several actions on the Highway 116 West Cotati Avenue Safety Improvements Project. To help with the available during the Q&A is Sean O'Keefe. He's a principal and vice president with Mark Thomas, the consulting engineering company, and he'll be managing the project from their end. The actions are to first approve the environmental review and finding the project exempt from CEQA in accordance with CEQA guidelines section 15183. Second, approve a professional services agreement for project design. And third, approve postponement of certain projects and the appropriation of those funds to the project account. Okay, the project proposes improvements on State High Route 116 to provide road safety and traffic management, including additional turn lanes, bike and pedestrian facilities, and a raised median from Redwood Drive to approximately 500 feet west of Alder Avenue, all along Highway 116. The project includes realignment of West Cotati Avenue signalization, addition of dedicated turn lanes, construction of a Class 1 bike and pedestrian path, and associated pedestrian and safety upgrades. The project was identified in the city's local road safety plan and the recently adopted active transportation plan as a priority bike and pedestrian safety project. Okay, so on October 25th, 2022, 2 years ago, the City Council approved a design contract to for environmental review and to prepare the 35% design. During the course of that work, there were 2 public meetings, and the project continues to have its own webpage with timelines, plans, contact information, and updates provided. It's a live page for to get public input. The environmental review and 35% design were completed in June of this year, and since that time, staff has put out an RFQ, a request for qualifications. We received over 15 proposals, and we reviewed those and determined that Mark Thomas, Consulting Engineers, is the most qualified to perform this work. They have extensive prior experience with similar projects, particularly with navigating the Caltrans review process. And then they were also on the team, the project team, to develop the 35% plans. The proposed scope of work is to take the 35% plans to 100% construction drawings, develop a complete set of specifications and obtain project approvals from Caltrans, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. Notice was sent to the Federated Indians of Creighton Rancheria, and the city did not receive a response requesting to enter into consultation. So a traditional design process would take probably a fraction of the time, a quarter of the time. However, this requires, because it's in state right-of-way, it requires us to get Caltrans project approvals. And they require, if it was a really large, like interchange project, it would take years, okay? But they have a streamlined process called the Design Engineering Evaluation Review, which is still a lengthy process and takes about a year to get through. There's a dozen or so Caltrans departments and requirements, checklists that they require us to prepare. And so our prognosis is for this process for the project approvals to be complete by spring of 2026. Okay. The city is, budget-wise, we've spent about $230,000 on getting to this point. And then we have $362,000 for design through bidding in our current adopted budget. Well, the proposal cost came in at $1.2 million. So that was a real shocker for us, and just speaks to the lengthy process that we have to go through with Caltrans. And so staff went through our current approved project list to come up with $838,000. And we're looking at specifically postponing the Class 1 pathway project, the trash implementation plan, Phase 1, and the gateway signage projects. Additionally, although design would continue with the 2025 street improvements project, it's a preservation project, we would borrow or just use the $400,000 or so from that construction and then replenish it with Roanoke Park traffic mitigation funds from their Mountain Village that they're collecting and already have in an account on our behalf. And so we just, staff is currently working on a cost agreement with Roanoke Park to flow that money to us. And those funds are estimated to be in exceedance of what we're using from the 25 street improvements project. The Class 1 pathway is a really high priority that the city has. I mean, it's in our budget. It's something we've spent a lot of time talking about. Delaying it was not an easy decision. What the compromise is to make some progress on that effort is we're proposing to have Public Works do repairs on the worst sections of the Delano Park pathway. When you walk through the pathway, a lot of it is in pretty good shape, and then there's a section of about 50 to 60 feet where there's a lot of roots, and that section, if we get that repaired in-house, that would address a lot of that issue. I'll have to talk with the park superintendent or the public works superintendent to see if we can do anything beyond that, like along the Laguna pathway. The trash implementation plan is originally was over a 10-year period. Now it's shrunk into more like 4.5 years. And we've got 10 years worth of improvements. However, and we were looking to do Phase 1 this year. So pushing that off really moves not just 1 year, but a 10-year program into 4.5 years. So it's still feasible, but not time yet to really think it's infeasible to do that. It's not millions and millions of dollars worth of improvements. We were just going to try to get to that over time gradually. So timing is critical to complete this design. As with the prior presentations we've made, it dovetails with state and federal funding in the order of $2 million. And then also we have Cotati Village 1 and 2, which have now been entitled. And we've spoken with that applicant, and they're saying that the 1 year, the spring 2026 timing to complete this effort works well with their plans on getting everything in order to go ahead and construct those projects. And that's important because we're getting millions of dollars anticipated from those projects in development impact fees. So all of these pulled together, it's good. There's a lot of moving parts here, would make this project possible. And then, you know, I think the federal money is set to expire in 2027. So if we have a delay of even 6 months or so on this project, that would start putting that funding in jeopardy. Again, we've got Sean O'Keefe on the webcast. There he is to help us address any questions you may have, and that concludes the presentation. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I'd like to start by asking, we had several written comments come in from members of the community, and I wanted to ask a few questions relating to some of that comment. So one of the topics that came up was the pedestrian bulb outs at the intersection of West Cotati and 116, and the width of the median as a potential pausing spot for pedestrians crossing there. Could you talk a little bit about what's in the 35% plan for that, And how feasible would it be to make adjustments to it as part of the scope of work?
Sure. So the environmental document on page 16 of 136 has a configuration just for a frame of reference. The pedestrian crossing has been brought up in one of the public meetings. We considered it for a number of reasons. It did not get into the 35% design. To get more into it, I could ask Sean O'Keefe, that's online here, to maybe address it more fully.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Sean O'Keefe with Mark Thomas, as mentioned. As a part of our preliminary design effort, we did look at pedestrian refuge islands in the medians here as you're crossing 116. The problem is, though, and the way that we look at this now is shortening those crossing distances is critically important. So we really want to make the intersection as small as we can. You know, having people in the middle of the highway is not an ideal situation for those folks, and so we want to get them moving across as quickly as possible. We also have the benefit of having a signal at this location, which allows those pedestrians to be able to traverse the intersection with enough time to make it across. So while there are noses out there with the turn pockets, they're not intended to be refuge islands, as we want the pedestrians to move through the intersections as quickly as possible as to not be stuck in the middle. So definitely considerations that we've looked at as a part of this, and essentially new guidance tells us we want to make the intersection small, allow enough time for pedestrians to clear the intersections, and not provide necessary waiting areas in the middle where people would linger.
And just a follow-up, thank you so much. Just a follow-up question. When you said new guidance, can you just describe like where that guidance comes from that you're mentioning?
Yeah, just and I can't cite chapter and verse to that.
Sorry, not to put you on the spot, just a general idea.
No, that's okay. Because when you look at older designs, they do have locations where there are larger intersections with refuge islands. So in this case, as new complete streets and bicycle and pedestrian safety have come into the forefront of design, it's really looked to again making those intersections as small as we possibly can to slow people down at the intersections from a vehicular perspective, but then also making those crossing distances shorter, allowing the timing of the signals for those people to move more quickly across the intersection. So that's when I speak to guidance, I just mean kind of maybe the way that things are moving related to bicycle and pedestrian safety, and how we want to make these intersections as small as we can to be able to move those most vulnerable users through the intersections more quickly.
So you're saying that the lack of the median pause is really motivated by pedestrian safety and not by any other factors?
Correct. Yeah, we really don't want people hanging out in the middle of the intersection. If you can imagine being stuck there and people going by at higher speeds on State Route 116 is not a great spot to be. So there's not a lot of room for people to hang out there, as we want them to clear the intersection and get safely to the other side.
All right, thank you so much. And I have another question that's based on some of the citizen comments we received. There was, can you please just clarify for everyone who's watching, like what does the current design say about where the protected class 1 bike path is going to be? Where does that transition away from being protected, and what is it at that point? And then also how feasible would it be to change that design? Because we had some requests to provide a protected bike lane farther to the east. Could you speak about that a little bit?
Yes, sure, certainly. The pathway is a condition of approval of Cotati Villages 1. It's along their frontage, and it would be carved out of their land and maintained by them. But it's included in this path because of the linkage to the intersection, and it extends from about 350 feet to the west of Alder, all the way through the intersection east to Redwood Drive. And it is an off-road classic class 1 multi-use pathway, 14 feet wide, and with bike ped traffic going both ways on it. It's wide enough to have a center divider lane and be dedicated to bikes and pedestrians.
And if a person on a, sorry, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to add something just about the phasing and the timing, just in case that wasn't clear. So if you're looking at the intersection there on the screen, on the west side of the intersection, so to the left of the intersection, that Class 1 path you see at the top of the image, that's the developer. This is Cotati Village 1. That's the developer that's developing now, and that's being built now, and would, in terms of phasing, would be done with basically ahead of or with the project. On the west side, that's the George Akel property, and that's a different development project. That's on private property, so it's east side. Sorry, east side. I don't know what I just said, but east side is what I meant to say. Yeah, sorry. On the east side of the intersection, that's George Akel. So that's private property, and at this point, I don't know what the timing of that would be. In other words, if it could be advanced ahead of the development that eventually occurs there. But we don't know that yet. But it's part of the overall design to design it, but in terms of actual construction.
And to one follow-up question, and I see you and we'll come to you next, but one follow-up question is, if a cyclist is riding from one of these new homes along the Class 1 pathway and then they get to Redwood Drive, what is their path and route to get into the rest of Cotati under the freeway?
Yeah.
And what's the plan for that?
Oh, sure. You go ahead now.
Well, it would be to utilize the existing bicycle circulation network. So they would cross south at the intersection and then get on the bicycle path that allows you to traverse under the freeway.
And is there any possibility of designing to extend the protected bicycle lane farther east as part of this project, or is that not feasible?
My understanding is there's not existing right-of-way to engage with that. And then the one thing that we haven't discussed here is Caltrans is going to have significant direction and involvement in the design of this project. And so Caltrans has really taken a strong pivot towards bicycle and pedestrian safety. They're going to have a lot of insight. So even if we got direction to include X, Y, or Z features or explore those, Caltrans could bolster those or nix them as a part of their review because it is ultimately their facility.
But could we, just for clarity on what's possible, could we give direction tonight to lengthen that protected pathway and deal with that in the 100% design?
I don't think there's lengthen it across the Akel property or into the existing intersection.
Either on the south side of 116 going, like crossing the street, or on the north side, just somewhere that there's a protected path all the way into the gateway down by Walgreens, so people could actually get all the way there on a protected path.
So the issue right now with that is we haven't analyzed anything east of Redwood Drive with regards to adequate right-of-way, Caltrans requirements, engagement with all the other infrastructure that's in those locations.
Okay. If we wanted to do that at some point in the future, would it be more difficult to do it as part of this whole thing, or to start a new process with Caltrans to do that at some future date? I know that's a doozy.
So I would say, city engineer and city manager have more insight into that, but the concern would be, as we've spoken about, we're trying to sync up multiple various timelines to ensure these projects can actually get constructed because there's a lot of timing that's involved in multiple parties. And then the funding. So right now we don't even have enough money to build what we have designed, and we're trying to cobble that together. So then expanding that design and scope and complication and it would probably, I would say it would make it less likely to actually get accomplished. Trying to bite off a bigger bite.
Yeah, I agree. But I would say that Caltrans, Caltrans is going to be coming, this is a shop project, so I don't know to what degree Caltrans can add things to it, but they have a shop project planned for 2028 through the corridor, and there might be elements that we can include as part of that project. Because they're coming right through the corridor all the way to 116.
I'm sorry, what did you say, shop? What does that mean?
Sorry, it's a Caltrans acronym, but it's a street maintenance program. And so it's like street maintenance, and they do like some gap closure work as part of that. So there could be a possibility that we can engage with them on that.
All right, that was all my questions. Yes, Councilmember Rivers.
So, so just for this first, and then I have a follow-on to that one. So the southeast side, I'm just looking, turning on that street is not a right-hand turn, is not a right angle right now. It's very much of a sharp angle. And that, I understood the reason for that was because the property was private property. But in order to make this right turn, it has to use part of that property, correct? And right, so
In the southeast corner, it would be some property swapping in the corner to make that angle, yeah.
right. So that does have to happen up front, correct? Okay, because I thought I heard you say that that was something that was going to be worked out later, and I don't see how we can have that right angle without that being done first.
It was probably my misdirection when I was talking earlier. I was talking about the north side of the intersection, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, just clarification on that. So then I'm just thinking, because Mayor Sparks' point is very well taken. There is no safe way to get across or into town, right? And this new bike lane looks incredible. And I'm sort of wondering, connecting this to what is going to be the bike route along Smart Train. Like I keep hearing about that coming. My presumption is the idea would be to take the underground pass, and that we're hoping that this shop will somehow connect all these different, that there will be a safe way to get all the way from one point to the other, rather than all of these sort of like places where you kind of have to walk the bike.
I don't want to, sorry to interrupt. I don't want to set unrealistic expectations about their shop program, because they're not going to be super eager to be adding things to their project, but it's certainly an opportunity for the situation, improve the situation there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay, good. Well, that was my main question. Thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor Ford?
Yeah, I had a question also about the 35 to 100% design and what sort of changes can happen in that change. So on, shoot, this page doesn't have a number. Oh well, on one of the pages that has that drawing on it but has some notes, it does say, for instance, size and materials of median to be determined based on future study. So maybe that median width question is the scale of question that could be further discussed in the 35 to 100% design process. At least it's indicated in the notes. Similarly, so another question then is the bike lane, not the bike path, but the bike lane on the south side of 116 that's currently in the plan, has some hashed striping. It's what I think they call a buffered bike lane, but it's not a protected bike lane. Protected bike lane, which would require physical vertical separation. And so those kinds of specifics, I'm assuming, can still be discussed in this 35 going out to 100% design. And so that's a question. I'm assuming that level of detail can still be worked out as indicated in the notes on whatever page that is.
My understanding is when we're engaging with Caltrans, we'll be talking about all these elements and trying to refine them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So staff will be talking with Caltrans, but will the Planning Commission and City Council have an opportunity to have some input on that level of decision at that point? Or is it your understanding that had to happen earlier?
Or can that happen right now?
Well, that's not what's on the agenda, is design. So I don't think it can happen now.
Could it happen now as part of a discussion of the scope of work that we're approving?
I mean, I think the council could add, direction that we take with us when we're talking with Caltrans and we further develop the design, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this version has previously been discussed in a public meeting. Anyway, so we've had previous rounds of public comment on this, but anyway, this is where we are at the moment. But we certainly can take more comment if we
Well,
can try to.
yes,
incorporate-
we've discussed it, and we've had lots of comments that were concerned about those pedestrian and bike safety issues, and they haven't been addressed. So that's why we're bringing it up.
Yeah, understood.
Councilmember Harvey?
Along those lines, there was another comment that we got about the, I guess you'd call it the, at the bottom of the picture, that it's a class 2. And they said that on a highway, that's really not a sufficient, because the cars are going so fast. Can you speak to that?
We did spend a lot of iterations trying to get as much safety enhancements out of this corridor as we could. And on that side, there's no development going on, so we have to constrain ourselves to the Caltrans right-of-way and have the 2 lanes and the right turn lane, this go-through lane, the left turn lane, and then the through lane going east. So when you put all that geometry together, that the class 2 buffered bike lane is what we could get out of this design. I think Sean could maybe speak to that process about, like, the first iteration we got was a lot less desirable than this, and over several iterations we were able to get more out of it by making the lanes a little bit narrower, I think, and maybe the median a little bit narrower, but we are constrained with the geometry. We can't just go, oh, we want another 10 feet here, another 15 feet. We're limited on that south side. Sean, did you have anything to tell us about the design? Being in the trenches, designing this and trying to get as good a bike lane as we could out of that south side.
Councilmember Harvey, just to be clear too, sorry, you're referring to West Cotati Avenue specifically, right? Is that what you're?
Well, that
No?
sort of eastbound direction, there's a class 2 lane. So
Right.
the question
north-
from
on the south side, okay.
from the public was that was not really sufficient, given that, and that a class 1 or class 4 would be more appropriate. But if I understand you correctly, it really has to do with, we own a very minuscule piece of that, and it would involve many, many other property owners to go all the way down that stretch to put in what is being suggested on the other side of the street. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, and as it is, we're getting more space by putting in a small retaining wall on that side. So we actually got another 1.5 or 2 feet more by, instead of just having it follow its existing slope, to put in a little retaining wall. So we've kind of gotten as much as we can out of this, and I just wanted to see if that rings true with the design group. John?
Yeah, Craig. So no, you're exactly right. So what we did as part of the design iteration process is looked at essentially how we're going to utilize the space within the existing right of way that we have. And so we're trying to balance various travel modes, vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, and trying to fit this stuff all in. So we definitely did make the bike lane a little bit better over time by squeezing down a little bit of the other elements. But that is definitely on top of mind. As Noah mentioned earlier, Caltrans has a big push right now for bicycle and pedestrian safety. So that's something that we'll be working with them closely as we continue to develop the design and move it forward. Ultimately, as mentioned, it is a Caltrans facility. They will have the ultimate say, but we can provide recommendations about where we think improvements and refinements in the design make the most sense to the benefit of the community, and bicycle safety being one of them.
So can I, so to follow up on that, is it okay for folks to use the class 1 on the other side in both directions? Is that allowable? Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Did you have something to add, City Manager?
I was just going to say that the alignment that it's in now, it also, we're also trying to avoid numerous wetlands all along the corridor, and if we move things out, it was obliterating wetlands. So that's part of the space constraints in addition to the right-of-way.
Councilmember Lemus?
Yeah, I was just going to concur with other council members that safety is really important. There's going to be families and children in the area. So just, if we can do anything now, I know that we have the active transportation plan and other things that we can look to. Anything we can do now in the planning so that we can ensure when the families move in that it's safe for them. And I also agree. My question too was, as far as the level 1, the pathway on the north side, does that extend out all the way to past where the villages are going to be, or does it end there? Does it end at Alder, or does it continue past Alder? It ends at Alder?
It actually goes in front of Jane's and Acme.
In front of Jane?
Yeah, so villages too, but the front side of it.
The front side of it, okay. So at the end of the last building at the end of Jane's?
Yeah, basically the property line. So you go all the way to that far property line on that development.
And that's that pathway level 1, the one that has pedestrian and
the
bicycle?
Class 1 path, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it crosses over Alder and continues until that point.
No, the other one is going to be a level 2 on the other side. Thank you.
So I have a follow-up question about Councilmember Harvey's question about the bike lane on the south side of 116. Is there not room there for those bollard type things that they've been putting in Santa Rosa to protect? Do you know what I'm talking about? The blue or the orange? Yeah.
Yes, like on West Sierra Avenue, we could put bollards in there too. So
it's a state facility though too, so obviously Caltrans has to be the one that agrees to it.
Is that something we could add into our design as we go from 30 to piggyback on your question? Is that a type of change that there's leeway for between the 35% and the 100% design?
There's sometimes unintended consequences. Using this example again, this is within our state jurisdiction to do West Sierra Avenue, but we've held back on it because the street sweeper would miss that. In fact, it would push all the debris into the bike lane, so it would really exacerbate that bike lane. Right now it stays nice and clean, and with the bollards you'd get the separation, but you'd have now all the debris to deal with. In this case, I don't know if that would be the case, but that's a design addition that I would think could be considered during the Caltrans approval process.
And I should mention, I'm going to the mayors and council members meeting on Thursday, board meeting, and the topic is street sweepers for those bike lanes. So there's a lot of other cities that are dealing with that, and hopefully we'll have a solution in the coming years. Okay, other questions? Yeah.
Is it a possibility that Caltrans may decide that class 2 lane on the south side is not wanted or necessary given the class 1 on the other side? I mean, from a safety perspective, the class 1 is what keeps people safe, separated, and it seems like having that one there when we don't have enough room to make that side be class 1. Is that possible that Caltrans might?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, we don't know exactly how Caltrans is going to view this. That's why we're going into this process. But I think Noah had mentioned this, and maybe Sean as well, that Caltrans is putting an emphasis on adding bike pedestrian safety enhancements wherever they can, which seems like this falls in that category. Even though it's not as good as the class 1, or there's a class 1, there might be some regional riders coming through the area and they don't want to cross over, use it for a section and cross back over. They'd rather just stay on 116. These are the comfortable class 1 bicyclists. And so this is accommodating those folks. That's just my guess, but it's yet to be seen what the how Caltrans will react to this proposal.
Thank you.
So if I'm on that north side riding along and I'm trying to get into Cotati, how do I do that?
So, as Noah had mentioned, when you get to Redwood Drive, there's a crosswalk. So you'd get off your bike, cross over to the south side, and then you'd use our bike lanes along Highway 116. And, you know, we've got the green bike paint over by Peach Coffee on that intersection. And Redwood Drive, we've just enhanced that with Class 2B, you know, the buffered bike lanes on Redwood Drive all the way into Roanoke Park. So you just
No, I'm
link,
talking about like towards Cotati.
right, you cross over, like I said, and go under the interchange. And, you know, you'd have to probably get off your bike and cross over at that crosswalk. But like we said, we had to, for budget reasons and just, we had to define an area. And this is the area we came up with, and we're pretty committed to it now with the environmental document.
No, yeah, no, I understand. I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to, someone's got their thing on.
Like, what does that look like in the future?
Just to visualize getting from, and I'm guessing most people are going to come down West Cotati and then go under the underpass?
The active transportation plan envisions West Cotati connecting to this intersection as being the primary way you would get from this location into town.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's planned for to accommodate both routes, but some people are going to be much more comfortable going West Cotati on those less traffic routes versus going under the 101.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think ahead and realizing that, you know, like Griffith, for example, like that's just going to need to be some work there. But the other question I wanted to ask about was I just find it super ironic that we're like talking about Pollution Prevention Week at the same time that we're talking about deferring the trash project for the creeks. And I really do not want to do that. And I'm looking at the website for Mark Thomas, and I understand, you know, we had budgeted 360 and it ends up being almost, you know, over 3 times that. Were any other organizations explored, or was it just the one no matter what?
Any other options for
Right.
budget cutting? I think what you're seeing is
No,
everything.
no, I mean other firms, like,
Oh.
you know, they came up with $1 million, maybe another one would have been closer to what we were expecting.
Yeah, no, when
Okay.
when we do bidding for a construction job, it's the lowest bidder, but with engineering professional services, you have to look at the qualifications first and then go into the costs, but not using the costs as a, you know, a selection. I would suspect that if we got another proposal, it would be around this amount. I mean, that's just speculation, but the Caltrans process is very involved, and we're looking at the scope of services and all of the different tasks that they would have to accomplish and the unknowns. And so it seems like a fair and reasonable proposal to us.
So why did we expect it to be a third of that then?
The DEER process is new.
Okay.
It used to be the PEER process with a P, which is more predictable, but this one has more steps involved. And so I think that caught us by surprise. We've gone through the PEER process with the park and ride, for example, and we kind of have a feel for how much that costs. But this one has a lot more steps involved. Just caught us by surprise.
Okay. I'm just, you know, we're talking about the bidding process, you know, before as well, but, you know, I'm just looking, I'm seeing the diversity is lacking in the executive. I see one woman who is the only one who doesn't have principal in front of her name on the executive team. And I'm glad we have someone who's super, but you know, the other thing I noticed on their website is that they mentioned they have grant writers. So I'm wondering, is there any potential for any part of this to, for help with the grant writings in the proposal? I guess this question would be for Sean.
Yeah, we do have grant writing services available for the city. We work with a lot of local agency partners and help identify and prepare grants for that. So it's not a part of our scope of services now, but definitely something that we can assist with if the city so desires.
I have a follow-up question for you. If there are a lot of items on the checklist that are labeled optional on Caltrans's part, and if we didn't have to do them, if Caltrans decided not to proceed with some of those steps, I'm assuming that would lower the overall cost of the project. Can you give us any kind of sense from, somewhat similar projects that you've dealt with in the past? Is Caltrans invoking all of those optional steps, or are they sometimes not doing all of them?
Yeah, great question. Typically, lately, they are invoking those, to your question, which is why we put them in there. I think we can try and make a case that some of those items aren't required and aren't necessary. But what we didn't want to do is start off with a project scope that we don't feel like could meet the ultimate needs of the project and then have to come back later for additional budget. So our intent was scope the things that we're seeing. Quite frankly, the Caltrans requirements haven't become less, they've become more. As Craig was speaking to, the peer process used to be quite simple. Now we're in a different process, and it's getting more complicated and not less complicated from the asks. So that's what's reflected in the scope of work.
Okay, well, thank you. And then maybe one more follow-up question for Mr. Scott, based on Councilmember Rivers' questions. What would be, if we did want to go out for another bid to see if we could get a cheaper option, what kind of delay would that cause for this project?
We do have a list of consultants, the follow-up consultants to choose from, and it would take them anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks to put a proposal together. So it'd be a month and a half, 2 months. And that's if, and you might not end up choosing them, right? So, but maybe a couple of months and be back where we are today.
Okay, thank you. Yes, question, Councilmember.
Can I
Harvey?
follow up on your follow-up? So how many DEER processes have been done, and has your firm gone through any of this before?
Yep, so it is a new process, really started implementation about 2 years ago or so. We've done several DEER projects within Caltrans districts. We're working on a couple right now as well. So a couple completed and we're working on a couple as well. It is a streamlined process, so it is not Caltrans' favorite way to process projects. Typically, they like to do things either in a very simple manner with just an encroachment permit, or they like to go through what they call the full project development process, which I think Noah was alluding to earlier, that takes several years to gain their approval in the environmental as part of the project. So this is kind of that streamlined niche process that doesn't get used all the time, and you actually have to get allowed to use it, which will be our first step, is to engage with Caltrans and say that we meet the criteria for this streamlined process, and then make our case for them to allow us to enter into that for their approval.
And it seems like with this process, there are multiple iterations. I noticed in the proposal. Has that been your experience with Caltrans, that you have to go at them multiple times for each of these things?
Yeah, there are multiple rounds of reviews for each one of the technical documents that we'd be producing. So that is just the nature of their reviews. I think, as obviously also previously mentioned, they have dozens of internal functional units that review these things. And each of these reports goes through different levels before they get signed off on. So there are multiple rounds we would be anticipating with certain technical documents, as well as the DEER document itself, which is a report that essentially is an executive summary of all the technical reports and their findings, as well as the planning and other projects that are happening in the surrounding areas, as kind of a comprehensive look at how this project fits within the greater context of the region, how it fits within the context of the city and the State Route 116.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I had a question about the trash project. Can you describe a little bit about what actions that is? I know that we have Creek Week coming up, so that will help a little bit, but what are some of the actions of the trash project?
It's, what are the actions? This one in particular was the one that had the biggest impact. So we focused it on downtown, where it was seen to be a medium trash area. There was a high, medium, and low trash areas identified, and medium was the highest we achieved throughout the city. We're not a really big trash generator. And so it was looking at installing, I think, 7 full trash capture devices at the outlet. So once the water carries the trash from downtown through the pipes, and then it's about to outlet into the Cotati Creek, right there, it's we thought it was the most effective place to then put a full trash capture device at that location, because instead of putting in like 18 or 20 at all the inlets, we just put in 7 at the 7 locations, and then Public Works would have to go and service them, maintain them every so often after storm events. But it would allow that trash to be flushed out of the streets and then into our storm drains, and then right before it enters the creek, get captured and held back so it would not reach the creek.
So then this implementation project that's being impacted, that means that Public Works or the garbage will not be collected or won't be improved upon, or I'm just kind of curious what.
It just means we're relying on our street sweeping and trash picking up, our businesses picking up trash in the front of their businesses through downtown. I mean, we have safeguards in place today.
Okay.
To take care of it, having trash cans not overflowing, and those are in place today, those safeguards. So, but this is just that fail safe. Like, what if a piece of garbage ends up in the gutter and goes down into the outlet?
Yeah, okay. So postponement just means that this program won't start until a year later or so?
Correct. And then the following programs will have to be condensed into the 4.5 years we have left.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, Councilmember Rivers?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the trash program was going to be delayed 1 year? I thought it was longer.
Yes, postponed for 1 year.
And then in 1 year, we'll have the money to do it?
We would go through the budgeting process and look at all the priorities, but
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I think it's time to open this up for public comment. Let's go to Zoom first on this one.
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Lori, we see your hand. You have the floor.
First of all, the EIR needs to have, you have the residents of the West Side's names, addresses, and with some of us old timers, the phone numbers. In the age of identity, identity theft, I hope you guys are going to be are set up for claims for identity theft by your mistake. Bollards are a paratransit driver's nightmare. I don't know why you guys are so on the bicycle path things. In Santa Rosa by the junior college on Armory Drive, they put in bollards, and paratransit drivers can't get into door-to-door service. You have trouble, those protected, and they limited the lane and only allowed 1 foot extra on the lane before it hits a cement wall. These protected by are a bad idea. You good to stay as you are. My parents in 1977 went in front of the Cotati City Council, and after my brother and I were hit in an accident there at West Cotati to have it relined. I am hoping in my lifetime that it ever happens, but have you ever considered that the costs are going to keep going up? You don't have the $5 million together. Now you have $844,000 that extra to pay for this 35 to 100 plan. And like you say you have the Roanoke Park SOMO money. Well, that's should be on East Cotati because that's where, and you said you're going to use it in front of Oliver's. And so you're going to use it across town at where it's not an impact. And who knows when that money will actually come in. These are budget cuts to put in this, what services do we have? We don't have senior services. This money comes out of the general fund. We don't have a gym. We don't have a pool. We don't have a library. We don't have anything. What are we supposed to do? Put Dolly, rent out Dolly for picture taking because she's so cute, or are we supposed to put a drive-through through the community center? I don't know what else you're going to cut. You've cut everything else out. The only reason the city's not bankrupt is because you cut so many services down to where we get no services and we rely on Roanoke Park for everything. And the other thing, I don't know why you think the people are going to go ride their bikes on Highway 116. There's a bus stop
30
right there.
seconds.
And I've never seen anybody at the bus stop. I've never seen anybody ride their bike. There's a back way from West Cotati, but it's privately owned, that everybody takes. But nobody, absolutely nobody in a bike lane. Bike lane should not be it should be the safety of cars. My paratransit drivers have to go a different way because of that turn. Thank you.
That will end public comment on Zoom. Mayor Sparks, thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone in the chamber? Oh, I have a comment card from Neil Hancock. If you'd like to come and comment.
Yes, good evening, Council. Neil Hancock in Cotati. I've been advocating for this junction or this area since 2019 and bringing it up. And yes, it's an issue from the previous way we've designed roads. I would have thought this would have been better coming through the Planning Commission to begin with, so that at least some of these issues could have been flushed out and discussed. After studying this since the beginning of March when I brought it up, I've probably put in maybe 30 hours of studying, including last Saturday. I put 12 hours in writing the letter to you. But I'd like to point out that the figure 5 that was up there is a disconnect with some of the text. And that's a disconnect with what I've pulled off as the 35% design. So let me just identify a couple of areas, and I know this well enough that I was able to go to exactly one sentence I want in it. So in the document, it's under the EIR phase. It says the raised medium, 6-foot concrete medium, included based on preference from city staff to support roadway safety, FHWA, proven safety countermeasure. So that's page PDF 345, and 219 is the westbound and eastbound traffic would be separated by a 6-foot wide concrete raised medium. Also on page 214, the actual numbered labeled 214, it said would construct 2 eastbound lanes. Up on the picture was 3 eastbound lanes on Fig 5. So there seems to be a disconnect. Now, I like the talk of trying to make it easy to cross and less space to cross, but which document is the controlling document here? And that was one of the questions I had, is about how wide is that pedestrian refuge? There is a lot of indication that it is a safety element in having it. Pedestrians don't just scuttle across the road. I've put the psychology in place, or what I think of the psychology, what I put my psychology in, that I walk across part of the road and then I test the other side of the road. For traffic that is light, that is almost the most dangerous time, because you don't know if the other road, the other side of the road, the drivers are going to stop. So you're going to get part of the way across,
30
you're going to
seconds.
test it. So I'd just like to suggest we've got the active transportation plan as one indication to Caltrans. We should be putting out that there's 470 people who could be on that side. We should be indicating what the speed of this road will be once that's all urbanized. And then I think a preliminary design of some sort, maybe when it's gone through the process a little bit, should be to come back for comment to the Planning Commission and to the, for comment from the council. So I think you can make an input, and obviously Caltrans is the person, the driver in this, but it's their land. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Before we open it up to discussion, can I ask a question about that? Is it possible for us to include a discussion item with the Planning Commission as part of the process, taking this from 35% to 100%?
Well, it's a concept almost identical to what's in Figure 5 has been presented to Planning Commission already. I think we can certainly bring it back for information, you know, as an update to Planning Commission and to City Council during the process as we make, you know, headway. But I don't see an issue with that.
It would, I mean, a staff-driven thing, you could bring it back, certainly we can hear feedback and get comments and just take that in design meetings with Caltrans, but it's ultimately a state facility, so.
Right. I mean, but just to provide some formal way for folks, for the elected and appointed representatives to have some input as you go through this extended process, because things are going to change a lot without us having a chance to weigh in much. So it seems like a good idea to me. Okay, I'd like to open it up to council discussion. Yes, Councilmember Rivers.
I didn't hear the answer to his question, which is the accurate, the figure or the text.
So the EIR analyzed the kind of widest possible width of the median, and so if it has been further refined to be 5 feet now from 6 feet, I would say the engineer document is what's most accurate with regards to the design that's currently in the 35% plans. As has been mentioned, there's multiple iterations and designs that were analyzed. It doesn't change the EIR or the environmental impact analysis in any way. And ultimately, what goes before Caltrans is going to be massaged further from this 35%. So we want to analyze kind of the widest possible amount of improvements that would be constructed within that right of way, so that way all the potential impacts could be fully understood.
So right now it's 5. Okay, thank you.
But, yeah, I mean, I think it also varies, though. It varies based on location, the median, right?
You speaking to the width of the median, or 5, or are you talking about the number of lanes?
I thought he was talking about the height of the pedestrian, the width.
The width of the median.
He's showing me width, so width.
And the width has, as Noah mentioned, it started at one length, and then we tried to fit the bicycle lane in on the eastbound, and so it had to shrink a little bit. So there were some iterations, but as you can see with figure 5, it's been very closely coordinated. So the 35% and the environmental review they talk to each other,
Right. So, but just to answer his question, the figure, the image is the thing we should be looking at, not the text. Correct? Is what I heard you say?
No, the environmental document is written to cover the foreseeable impact of the project. What you don't want to do is all of a sudden change the design to increase the footprint, and then all of a sudden your environmental impact your environmental review document would have to be recrafted. So
Okay.
we want to lock that in and say it covers all of our potential future changes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Harvey.
It was my understanding that this is an intersection, and as such, both, I guess you'd call it eastbound and westbound lanes will be stopped for whatever the time period is, and likewise the other way. But the comment about the refuge, the expectation is that both eastbound and westbound will be stopped. So there shouldn't be a need to have refuge and wait for someone to stop because the red light, when is there, should be there for the duration of that light. Am I missing something?
Well, that's a huge advantage to pedestrians and bicyclists to have a signalized intersection. We can make the timing long enough, and we can actually have all the lights red and give the pedestrians a head start. And that's been something we've implemented like at Valparaiso, because when the pedestrians are out there in the middle and the cars are waiting for their green, the pedestrians are much more visible, and you can see their intent to get across the road. So that could be implemented. When you look at it, the crossing, the RRFB crossing at La Plaza across Old Redwood Highway, that's similar to the length of the east side of the West Cotati intersection that we're looking at here. And then the other side is narrower, and it's more like the crossing of Old Red near Pete's Coffee. So if you can imagine crossing where the mosaic wall is to Pete's Coffee and stopping in the middle of that road, I mean, you're only 10 feet away from getting to the curb. So if you want a kind of a feel for what those crossing lengths are, we have those lengths in town here at La Plaza and near Pete's Coffee.
Thank you.
And I would say probably I'm trying to read Neil's mind, but probably what he's thinking is that, people don't always stop at red lights. So as a pedestrian, you're often checking and reevaluating just to make sure people are actually stopped. I would guess is what he was talking about. Right. Okay. So I had a couple things. One is I meant to ask this in the question period, but I forgot. For the company, on page 5 of the scope of work, I think this is just some boilerplate that maybe didn't get corrected, but it talked about consultation with Chico and Butte County. I'm assuming that's meant to be Sonoma County and Cotati, perhaps. I was on the 5th page of the scope of work. I'm so sorry. My PDF is not have bookmarks in, so I'm having trouble getting there. But
188. PDF 188. Labeled 188.
possibly page 188 of the packet.
It's packet page 183 at the very bottom. I think the interviews is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Crawford may contact City of Chico or Butte County Environmental. Yeah, I assume that's just some reused language.
Okay, so just to get that corrected before we agree to this, we don't want to involve yet another county in our discussions. And then If it's possible to do this, to get this done on a timeline so we don't jeopardize the 2027 funding, I think it's worth considering seeking additional bids just so that we can be 100% sure that we are using the funds, I mean, in the best way possible. Because when we're getting to the point of having to delay and cancel things that are a real priority for us, if it's not going to affect the overall timeline, you said maybe 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 2 months total to get additional bids. I know we might end up back where we started, and we might ultimately just go with what we've got in front of us. But it doesn't quite sit right to me that we've only got one bid and it comes in so much higher than we were expecting. And I'd just kind of like to hear what the other people on the council think about that.
Yeah, I share your concern. I think I understand the typical process is for engineering professional services. We decide which company has the best qualifications and then negotiate, get a bid from them. But I think in the special circumstance where the price comes in 3 or 4 times what we expected, I think it's reasonable to expect we do a little more due diligence before we spend $1 million of the city's money unexpectedly. So I agree with you. I think I'm leaning in that direction as well.
Anyone else having thoughts about that or about any other topics?
Well, I guess one of the things that I'm wondering, I was trying to look back at the staff report, and it said that that was the team that developed the 35% design drawings for the project. I guess the question then becomes, so if someone has to start all over again to understand what is going to happen from a cost perspective, that they have to get up to speed, is that a large impact, a small impact? Can you speak to that? Because that would be my only concern, is they got us this far, starting someone from zero, what will that impact?
Consultants don't like to use other consultants' work, and vice versa, because of liability issues. So it would have that another consultant would need to start from scratch on setting up the plan sheets and doing the topo and everything else. So that would be a pretty major setback for a new designer firm. I don't know, I can't quantify exactly what that amount is. But.
Yes, Vice Mayor Ford?
That's a little disturbing to me, that we didn't know when we agreed to a contract for a 35% design that we were signing on to automatically use the same company for 100% design. That's basically what you just said, and I am not okay with that. So we paid for a 35% design. We've got that design. Another company can take that design and take it to 100%. I am completely confident of that. I don't think it's legit to say they're going to have to start from scratch.
All right. Other comments about this? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I want to ask, I see for expediency, it, makes sense to move forward with the gentleman we have on the line right now. I'm wondering, is there any wiggle room in, I know you can't bring it to 300, but at least, less than $1 million? Is there any space that could make it less, so we, don't have to pollute our creeks in order to stay with you,
That's pretty heavy. What I will say is that, this is a time and materials contract. And so as efficient as we can possibly be, we're only spending the money that we actually need to get to the design approvals. If we can get there faster and get through Caltrans more quickly, we won't spend as much money. This isn't a lump sum contract where this is the price and this is what we're charging. We're going to move as quickly through this as we feasibly can. our schedule also is laid it out is I think a realistic schedule that we can meet. I just want to, be clear that it's TNM. We do this all the time. This is why we were selected. We know how to do these projects. I don't know what else to say except for that. You're kind of putting me in a tough spot from that perspective. We've enjoyed our relationship with working with the team. We think this is a great project. We'd like to help y'all move this forward, but I guess that's up to you.
All right, thank you. So the reason it's so high is because of the time that's required? Is that what I'm hearing you say? Which is dependent on Caltrans, not you, is what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the anticipate, because when we put the budgets together, it's an anticipated level of effort that we think we're gonna need to put into the design and the reports, the processing, all the coordination, the right-of-way that needs to be done, Caltrans right-of-way certification process. If you just look at the deliverables that are required to get this project approved and through to design and bid, it's a very high bar. And so I would think if you do go out into the world again to recompete this process, that is your prerogative. I don't think you're going to see much, if any, savings at all. Craig is correct when he says that if I was looking at this from the outside perspective, there's so many unknowns that I don't know about that I would be putting in potentially extra budget to cover the unknown risks for that. So I think that's kind of what he was getting to, not necessarily to the other council members' point. Another consultant could absolutely pick this project up. They could absolutely move it forward. It's not starting at zero per se, but there is a big learning curve that needs to happen to get up to speed and move this project efficiently forward.
Thank you for that. Vice Mayor Ford?
Yeah, thanks for that sort of clarification that it is a time and materials contract. That's helpful and does change the calculus for me a little bit. Like at that point, I don't question the firm's ability to do the work. So it just comes down to, are their hourly rates crazy and out of line? And I doubt it. I'm sure staff would have said, no, we're not going to pay. I don't even want to say an outrageous amount because it might be what the actual charge is, but so that does for me change things a bit, and I guess just if we proceed, my feedback would just be to staff to really ride hard on that and make sure that we're not paying for any extra services that aren't absolutely necessary to get this through Caltrans. But I don't know what it's like to work with Caltrans, and it sounds like this new process is the main driver of the cost.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Harvey.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Damien will jump in here, but in the time that I've been on the council, it seems like every time we have to do anything with Caltrans, it is costly and the time is ridiculous. I believe that even our West Sierra project got held up by, I think, almost a year because of some small thing that all of a sudden we had to do all this extra stuff for Caltrans in order, for this tiny little sliver of something, to happen. It seemed kind of crazy to me. So unfortunately, you never know, it feels like, what Caltrans you're going to get on what day and whether or not they're going to be agreeable or not. I mean, I know you guys, it took, 5 or 6 years to even negotiate with them on the park and ride thing. They're not a very quick moving organization, and it sounds like they also have so many departments and each one of them doesn't talk to one another, and so you have to go through each one, which does not seem very efficient, but I guess that's the way they do things. So
yeah, I was gonna just let you know, tell you too that my experience working with Caltrans is like getting married. You think everything's going to cost $1, but it costs $5. It's just the nature. Seems to be the nature of Caltrans.
Yes, Councilmember Rivers.
I'm just looking at for the assumptions and exclusions. It excludes community outreach and/or engagement, and I just want to bring attention to that because I know that was one of the things that was asked for.
Yeah, that's why we were, I guess, trying to say that we would do it I mean, the staff would be doing it. It wouldn't be the consultant doing it necessarily. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just that they would not be doing it. It's not that we would not do it. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
So I had some follow-up about some of this discussion. All due respect, I'm sure that this is a super reputable company. I've dealt with some sort of questionable home contractors as a homeowner, and I've been told by multiple HVAC and roof and type of people, like, you're not going to get a lower quote from anybody, and it's never been true. I know this isn't the same situation. I do understand that, but I think when we're spending this much money, I feel like in order for me to go in front of the community and say this really is how much it costs, there's really no other choice, I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had a second bid at least to look at. So that would be my preference still, is that we take the time to just confirm, and I think it's likely we're going to come back and go with the same company, but I'd like to confirm and see how much other people come up with for their total. And if we need to, we could have a special meeting to move things along quicker if we're worried about running up against timelines. But that's my thought right now. Yeah.
So just quick response to that is a time and materials contract means that what we've got is an estimate, not a bid. And so at least that's my understanding. And so what is it we'd be looking for from another company then? Are we looking for cheaper hourly rates, or are we looking for a different estimate of how much time it's going to take? And if we get a estimate that it's going to take less time, what does that mean? Does that mean, oh, they see there's an incentive to underestimate how much time it's going to take because it's a time and materials contract, the estimate isn't binding anyway. So I'm not clear, given the time and materials nature, I'm not clear what we could gain from that.
That's a great point. Is there a possibility for staff to reach out to contractors and ask for some kind of schedule of hourly rates or something like that from the other consultants, so that, assuming it's going to take the same amount of time no matter who does it, so that we could at least compare their costs that way?
Go ahead.
Yes, we could go down the list and ask for that, their billing schedules.
Would it appreciably ruin our timeline to do that and come back with this at the next meeting? Would that be acceptable to staff to do something like that? Crickets?
And could we
Yeah.
also?
Sorry, what was the question? Yeah.
Would it be acceptable to staff to try to go out and get the hourly rates from the other consultants and then come back with that information at our next meeting before we approve this?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the time frame would be, but we could, I think to try to compare apples to apples as much as possible, we would have to try to pick firms that actually do this kind of work, as opposed to some other random engineering firm that we have. But I don't know timeframes. I'm not sure how long that would take.
Okay, Councilmember Harvey?
And I would want assurances that that company has been through this DEAR process. I don't want to have a newbie company that we're paying time and materials for them to learn the process.
Vice Mayor Ford and then Councilmember Rivers.
Sorry. Right, I was assuming that we were potentially talking about other companies that had responded to the request for qualifications and appeared to meet qualifications. Were there other such companies? I thought you said several companies responded.
There are.
Okay. Yeah, so we're not talking random consultants, random engineering firms. We're talking.
No,
okay.
But we would have to. A more useful process might be to have them prepare a detailed scope of work and their own hourly cost estimate, because it might be a little bit different. Their approach might be a little different than Mark Thomas's, rather than just assuming that the scopes are going to be identical and it's all up to their hourly rates. kind of making a big assumption. And that would be a little more time consuming.
Well, but I guess my question is, do you think that it affirms different approach, like there's actually potential for a different firm to have a different approach to working with Caltrans that would save a lot of their professional time in working with Caltrans? Because
I'd expect them to be very similar, but we don't know. I mean, they could have a different approach. Their experience could lead to a slightly different proposal, scope of services.
Did you have an answer on this question?
I just wanted to answer, Ben, when we were looking at some LAFCO firms for the municipal services reports, there was a wild range in kind of their methodology and how they did it. So sometimes there is, I'm guessing that this might be similar, but yeah, there were wide ranges, and it was just the way they did it.
Hey, Councilmember Rivers?
Yeah, I'm curious, how many firms were there?
We had over 15, I think. Let's say there were 15.
Okay.
But that was for a wide range of services.
Mm-hmm.
So the consultants that were capable of providing these services are about 3.
Okay. So how would we feel about just getting the 3 that can do everything, the one, rather than having to deal with a bunch of different ones, and potentially, giving some attention to the diversity goals of our city as well?
Personally, my thought on that is at where we are in this process, we have there's 3 total. Is that the case? So one that we're talking to tonight, and then 2 others?
3 others.
Oh, 3 others? Okay, so there's 3 other firms, and I think if we want to get as much information about potential costs as possible, just ask all 3 of them and find out what they say. I'm happy to be outvoted if that's not the direction the rest of you want to go, but that's what I would prefer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the scope of work for those 3.
I would like to understand how much from a staff perspective this is going to cost, and what are we going to push off and not be able to do, because it sounds like we're talking a month to 6 weeks worth of staff time to kind of re-evaluate and bid this. So what are we going to give up?
We're definitely in the construction window right now for a number of projects. It's a tough one to answer, because we would have to provide a framework for them to develop a proposal for, and that would take some time to develop. So that would take a couple of weeks or something. Then they would provide, we give them 3 or 4 weeks to respond. It's effort we weren't anticipating, but
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to quantify here on the spot, but it would take time. And yeah, personally speaking, my biggest concern is time at the moment. Certainly cost is important too, as we're talking about, but the time.
But it must mean that we have to give up something, because this was anticipated to be approved, and X, Y, and Z were going to be happening in the next 6 weeks. And now X, Y, and Z can't happen because that time and effort we have to put into this. So that's what I was trying to balance.
Yeah, and I totally hear you, and it makes sense. I'm weighing that against what I'm seeing. What are we not going to be able to do
Yeah.
list it out directly. We're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to
Well,
do this,
yeah,
these $800,000 worth of things. So like, what are the chances that I get what you're saying, and it's a balancing act of, what are the chances that we save some large amount of money if we do get another firm? So, but question, what about the middle road of trying to get just a schedule of hourly rates and do a comparison, and then decide relatively quickly whether there's such a disparity that it's worth going out and getting scopes of work, or whether we should just move forward because they're all relatively similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's much simpler ask than getting full scopes developed, because usually, I think even this scope and this particular consultant is very familiar with the project. I think it was 5 weeks or so just to develop this scope, because it's not just the consultant, it's also other sub-consultants, and it's just a lot that goes into a full proposal.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask for the thing that needs to be prepared for each organization. Wasn't that already done for this one? Like, couldn't you use the same one that was created for Mark Thomas with the other three?
They have an hourly or a table showing the tasks in the number of hours by classification. So we would just take that and put it into a spreadsheet and apply the new hourly rates to it, and that would just be assuming that the proposals and the hours
Would be
are
similar.
identical. I think that's legal to do that. Okay.
Yes, Vice Mayor Park?
Yeah, I think if there were a company out there that had figured out how to get deer projects through Caltrans in half the time that everybody else takes, we would know that. So I think the chances that a scope of work would be markedly different in total time and effort are very low, and I'm very comfortable that we're doing our due diligence, which is why I think we're talking so much about this, is we're spending $1 million of the city's money, and that's a big deal. So I feel comfortable we'd be doing our due diligence with the in-between approach of asking for the rate schedule from some others and just making sure that the Mark Thomas rate schedule is not completely out of whack, and then bringing it back next meeting. It feels like maybe we could even do it that quickly.
I would be supportive of that approach also. Does that sound okay? I'm seeing sort of nodding, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that we can do in the next couple weeks, but I don't really want to drag this out for 6 or 8 weeks. We're going to hit the other end, and then we're going to have problems with the housing projects, and it just snowballs.
Okay, well, with that in mind, I have a question for staff. I had some concerns about the approach to finding the funding for this, but if we're going to put this off to the next meeting, should I save that discussion for next time, or do you want to go through that now?
I would just say do it now. So
Okay, so I had spoken, just for everyone else knows, I had spoken with the city manager one-on-one about this yesterday, that I really don't feel comfortable deferring the Class 1 pathway maintenance, since that was identified as a priority to get that on a schedule where we're doing that maintenance on a regular basis. And in our conversation one-on-one, Mr. Obed had proposed perhaps deferring the marquee sign project, and then hoping to, is this okay for me to talk about? Hoping to perhaps secure some funds from the county for repair work that we had done on Cypress, where we own part of the road and they own part of the road. and combining those two, we could then still do the Class 1 pathway maintenance project. So that was something that I was going to propose as a change to the plan on how to fund this, and try to keep the pathway maintenance on the list for this year as we had planned. I don't know, does that sound okay to defer the marquee?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, the Class 1 paths are a far higher priority for me. So that would be certainly my preference. I wanted to say a little bit about the trash capture devices too. That requirement that we do something about trash going into the waterways is part of our, I forget which permit, and Cotati, along with the other jurisdictions, had a plan to address the trash issue in a different way, but the Regional Water Board has never approved that plan, and that's continues to be an ongoing issue. So we decided to go ahead and go with kind of the infrastructure approach of installing these trash capture devices. There is some talk among the Russian River Watershed group with the Regional Water Quality Control Board that they're moving towards a letter from the director hoping, we're hoping to get some kind of approval for the original trash plan. And so I haven't talked with Director Scott about this, so I'm not sure if this even at all would work with Cotati's plans anymore. But in an earlier iteration, we didn't plan to do the physical full trash capture devices at all the outlets, and perhaps if we delay that a year like this is proposed, then the other sort of more behavioral oriented approach of getting people to stop putting the trash on the ground might actually be the way we end up going. So perhaps delaying the trash capture devices. I know, we wanted to get going because the 2030 deadline is coming, but I think there's a little light at the end of the tunnel with the Regional Water Quality Control Board that we might actually get the original trash plan approved sometime relatively soon, or tentatively approved, or something like that.
And does that come with money? Is that why that's better?
It's cheaper. The original plan is cheaper to implement and much cheaper in an ongoing fashion. I mean, like Director Scott indicated, once we install these trash capture devices, that's a whole new thing for Public Works to maintain, empty the trash out. We don't even know how often until we start running them. Whereas the other approach, also to my mind, it sort of addresses the behavior and education in ways that would be good for the community versus just saying, okay, we'll accept the fact you're going to throw your trash on the ground, so we'll just start picking it up for you.
Could you please briefly just tell me what that is? Because I'm not familiar with the original plan.
I've said all I know about it, so maybe Director Scott can say more.
It's kind of soft things like education and increasing street sweeping, things like that. And so the full trash capture was, everybody could, the regional board could agree on that. Like, that's going to remove the trash. And these others, they were waffling on because they wanted to quantify their effectiveness. But it's multiple soft things that we could do to reduce trash getting in our creeks at a lower cost.
Do you know, but we wouldn't have that either. We would have postponed both, correct? Yeah.
All right, so what I'm hearing a consensus for is to go back and get a schedule of hourly rates and do a comparison and then bring this back at our next meeting. In that, if that's the case, then I think we don't need to take any action tonight, right? Do we need a motion of any sort, or?
There also is a CEQA document here
Right,
that might be
right.
helpful just to, in terms of packet size that we
Yeah.
talked about. It would eliminate most of the packet, the CEQA document out.
Okay, so we can split this proposed motion and just approve the EIR tonight. I guess I would be looking, let's take a look at this motion. Yeah. Yes, so I'd be looking for a motion that does not include the second part with the professional services agreement. Hold on.
Do
the
you want
lawyers.
to?
Let's hold on because they're consulting over there.
We were just consulting about whether or not it was appropriate to take the CEQA action separately from the project approval of the contract, but we think it's okay for you to proceed with the CEQA action now. There's no need to do it. I mean, if your only concern is about having a very thick packet next time, we can just refer back to what was in the packet next time. Okay, so we would like you to proceed with the CEQA document.
Okay, and you think that's okay, or you're sure that's okay? Okay.
Sure, it's
that's
okay.
All right, let me take a stab at this. I'd like to adopt a resolution approving the environmental review, finding the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to California Public Resources Code, CEQA Guidelines, Section 15183, for the Highway 116 West Cotati Avenue intersection safety improvement project. That's it, I believe. And, oh, I think I have to authorize the recording of the CEQA document. Anything else?
I think that's it. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we've unanimously approved this CEQA, and we're going to come back with the rest later. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will start back up. We are going to reconvene the meeting now. Thanks for bearing with us through that break. Since we reordered things, we've already done item 12B, and now we're going to go back to 12A, the City Council Appointments and Assignments Police Advisory Selection Subcommittee, and I'll turn it over to City Manager Obit.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So the City Council recently created the Community Police Advisory Committee through the adoption of an ordinance. In case anyone's dying to know, it's 926 was the ordinance number. That created the advisory committee. So this 5-person committee is selected by a selection committee consisting of 2 council members and the city manager. The city council must appoint 2 city council members to serve on the selection committee to review applications and interview candidates. Currently, the city is advertising for interested candidates to apply for the committee. This is the advisory committee we're talking about, the council selection committee tonight. Applications are currently open and due no later than 5 p.m. on October 3rd. So if you know anybody that's interested, please encourage them to apply. For the process to select city council subcommittee members, the city council rules, this is section 7B, provides that the mayor is to make nominations to subcommittees and also indicate the term of the subcommittee, whether that's a standing or an ad hoc subcommittee. The city council members nominated to the subcommittee then must be ratified by a majority vote of the city council. So that's what we're doing here tonight. Given the nature of this proposed committee, it is recommended that this be an ad hoc committee that will be formed for the initial selection of the police advisory committee members. Following the initial selection of members, the ad hoc would dissolve. As committee member terms expire or vacancies occur, a new city council ad hoc committee would need to be formed to replace or reappoint members. This is an ad hoc format. The current city council appointments and assignments summary and detail tables indicating the current appointments and assignments are attached just as for reference, so you know who's assigned to what. And I just will conclude that we need a motion to approve selected nominees, including that action should also include the term of the subcommittee, so ad hoc versus standing. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, and I just had a question for you. Can you remind me the dates that the applications are due?
They're due October 3rd.
October 3rd. So since I just realized I'm responsible for determining the length of the subcommittee just this moment, how long do you think a reasonable time is for this committee to convene after those applications are due? Maybe like 2 weeks or something like that, or?
Yeah, I would have a couple months after applications are due.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is it doesn't run for a long period of time.
Forever.
And usually a year is sort
Okay.
of a rule of thumb.
So
Yeah.
to the end of the calendar year would be a reasonable term?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
it's probably reasonable.
Does that sound good, Chief? Okay. Okay, that was my question. Does anyone else have questions about this? All right, let's open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the chambers wishing to make a comment? All right, can we open it to Zoom, please?
Yes, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Lori, you have the floor.
I have a problem with, and I've said this before, that you do like the design, you have the city council deciding who is going to be on it. It's especially with the police advisory commission, it should be a variety of people, not ones that are aligned with council members' views and that. It should be, as I did with the Measure G committee in its origination, I had arranged for the honors civics class at Rancho Cotati High School to choose the original applicants. And then, and it was, of course, you guys went this, oh, we have to appoint each other. You lose impartiality whenever you put in, when each council member gets to appoint someone or have an ad hoc committee. Especially with a police oversight, it's such a sensitive issue. You don't want to have to be aligned with a council member's views for them to appoint you. You want to be able to speak freely, and this, you just need to not go with the usual ad hoc and all the civil city one, and go with what people don't want to be in city council chambers. They don't want to be. They want to be at and talk to the police and have oversight and all that. And you're not going to get that if you said it. You just appoint the city council. The city council appoints members. It's been years that you've been doing this on other committees, and it's just the people that you like get on it. So anyway, thanks.
That was our last hand, Mayor Sparks. That will end public comment on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, so I would like to make a recommendation, but then if anyone else is interested to serve or we want to have more discussion, I'm of course open to that. But I'd like to recommend nominating Councilmember Lemus and Vice Mayor Ford to serve on this committee. That would be my nomination, but of course it has to be like approved by the council. So if you're not willing to serve, or if somebody else would want to discuss it, we can open that up.
I'll just say I'd be happy to serve on that, in that role.
I would also be happy to serve. Thank you.
Yes.
I would very much like to be on it as well. I think, you know, I have a family with psychiatric issues, and I'm very much concerned. Also, I have family members who are mixed, and I feel like it's a very personal thing for me, and I would very much like to have the opportunity to serve. And I guess I also bring a lesbian perspective as well. I don't know, I just would like to be considered.
Okay. My original reasoning was thinking, I know that Councilmember Lemus has a lot of knowledge of law enforcement and can represent the Latino.
Yeah, I have law enforcement and HR, and also oversight experience from IOLERO. Yeah, I was on the Kaya task force that established the oversight body there. So I have experience, you know, community policing, all the different work that goes into it.
Thank you. And then I had been considering Vice Mayor Ford because he will be the mayor next year and kind of overseeing the inaugural year of this commission. But I'm open to discussion. If you all would like to alter the appointment, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'll just say, first of all, there's several, if certain things happen, I might be the mayor next year. Not a given.
I'm sorry.
So.
I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't have, I misspoke. That is the, yeah.
But also, I don't think I have as strong a claim to lived experience that is relevant to being on the selection committee as some others do. And if folks would like to swap out Councilmember Rivers for me in the mayor's nominations, I would not be offended.
Councilmember Harvey, any thoughts or?
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'd also be willing to serve. You know, I've been around for a while and have different experience and somewhat a little bit different views. But whatever you decide is, you know, I just want to point out, it sounded like there was a little bit of confusion with the commenter about that this is an appointment. It's not an appointment of people. It's not like Planning Commission where each of us council members, it was a very public process for people to have to apply via an application and go through that process. And what this committee, as I understand it, is to go through those applications and interview those folks. And if we get 100 of them, you know, pick whatever the number is, not that we are each appointing someone. So I just wanted to make that clear because that's not what we're talking about.
Okay. All right. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would actually like to withdraw from consideration. And it's not, the process is for the mayor to nominate, so I won't forward a nomination, but I am happy to stand aside from this role. I would just like to say, I think that whichever two of us are appointed are entirely capable of choosing a committee with diverse viewpoints who will give honest feedback to the police department that will be useful. And in fact, we're elected by the citizens to do this kind of thing. So I don't think there's any issue with our supposed impartiality. Thanks.
And I also want to say that I'm open to the mayor's choice in decision-making. So, whichever way there's, a lot of interest here. So whichever way I'm willing to serve, but I'm also willing to not serve. So whichever a mayor's decision I'm good with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I guess what I'm leaning towards is making a recommendation for Councilmember Rivers and Councilmember Lemus, because that seems to be where the strongest desire to serve I'm hearing. And I think your knowledge and experience is extremely valuable. So I would really like for you to serve. So that would be my new recommendation. Is that okay with everybody? Or okay. So I would move that we appoint, oh, and before we do that, can we, just to review the timeline, would be to the end of the calendar. Is that okay, or do you want to go to January? End of the calendar year?
End of the calendar year, I
Okay.
think it's fine, yeah, yeah.
So it would be an ad hoc committee towards the end of the calendar year, and I'm sure that when you first convene, you will take a look at the enabling legislation that we did that kind of goes through the qualifications that we're looking for and the balance, because that's part of it too, is looking at not just individual people, but the balance that they bring to the committee. Yeah.
Can I just make one suggestion for the term? There's no downside to saying something like until the committee has its first meeting or the end of January, whichever comes first, or something like that, because we do have a history of having trouble for some positions of getting enough applicants, and if we have to do another round,
Yeah.
maybe that'll be due January 5th or something like that, and in that case, I want the committee to still exist. So I would propose something like until the committee has its first fully seated meeting, or end of March, whichever comes first. Like the limit is a year on an ad hoc committee, right?
There's not really a limit. It's based on the task at hand and
Okay.
how long it takes. So
Okay.
if it took longer than a year, that would be okay. It seems like a year's too long.
Yeah. I mean, end of March would be basically 6 months, and if we're not able to seat a committee by that point, then we got to come back and talk about it anyway, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we appoint Councilmember Rivers and Councilmember Lemus to the selection committee, which will be created as an ad hoc committee to dissolve at the first seated meeting of the Community Police Advisory Commission, or at the end of March, whichever comes first. And that would have the advantage that our two members of the committee will still be on the council regardless of the outcome of the election. So, okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passed unanimously. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And let's move on to item 12C, appointment of a voting delegate and alternate to the 2024 League of California Cities Annual Conference.
All right, so that's me again. Thank you, Mayor. So in preparation for its annual conference each year, the League of California Cities requires that member cities appoint a voting delegate who will vote on conference resolutions at the annual business meeting. This year, Cal Cities only has a single resolution presented in advance of the meeting, which is attached to the council item. The resolution is for fair and equal treatment of all governmental officials at all levels, which was submitted by the city of Glendora in the LA area. This resolution cites several examples of requirements that apply to local government, but the state has exempted themselves from those same rules. The resolution calls for the governor and members of the state legislature to adopt a policy that states that all regulations and laws shall not apply solely to local government, but shall also apply to the state. So historically, the city has also appointed one alternate, but by the Cal City's bylaws, up to 2 alternates may be appointed. The voting delegate and alternates are customarily offered in Cotati to the mayor and/or vice mayor first, and if neither is planning to attend the conference, a city council member is selected who is planning to attend the annual conference. League bylaws also provide that the city council may appoint a city official to serve as a voting delegate or alternate if there will not be sufficient number of council members in attendance. And so, so oftentimes there might be one council member and then the city manager, for example. That's been a very relatively common occurrence in past years. This year's conference is scheduled for October 16th through 18th in Long Beach. The annual business meeting is on Friday, October 18th. And this year, the city has, in the staff report, it says 2 members, but I think actually one of our subcommittee members just finished their work, right? Okay. And the other, we have another member, Councilmember Harvey, who's still on the subcommittee with Cal Cities. So would likely be required or requested to attend the meeting. And so then funding is included in the fiscal 24-25 budget for this conference, and related travel expenses for what was budgeted was 2 city council members, or up to 2 city council members. Registrations and hotel rooms for 2 council members have been secured. Just generic reservations have been secured and are likely. And just another factor is it's highly unlikely to get more hotel rooms in that area. It's, for whatever reason, it's really after a couple weeks after registration opens, it's really difficult to get a hotel room there. So that's always a problem. But assuming up to 2 council members attend, no additional appropriations needed for this item. And so basically, in summary, what we need for this action tonight is the appointment of a voting delegate and any alternates, and then also direction on the resolution that's presented for that business meeting. So the voting delegate will carry the council's voting direction to that meeting. And I will also add, as well as in past years, it's been common practice to give the voting delegate some latitude, because it's not uncommon for resolutions to pop up that aren't in this packet in advance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Yes, go ahead.
So I am interested in attending, but I don't need to be the delegate. If there's more than 2 of us that want to go, can more of us go, or is it limited to 2?
Well, the budget assumed 2, and we would have to look for hotel rooms that were reasonable distance from the conference. It's just based on past experience, it's a challenge.
Okay, any other questions? And we can come back and discuss it. Yeah. Okay, so let's open it up to public comment. I'm seeing no one in the chamber, so let's open to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. That will end public comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, do you need to attend this because of your subcommittee work? Or?
Well, there's the policy committee, but I am also sit on the North Bay Division Executive Board. So there is an expectation that I attend the North Bay Division proceedings and the swearing into the new president and all of that. But if we can't afford it, then we can't afford it. But
okay. You know, if there's people who want to attend, I'd be happy to. I mean, I was planning to go, but I'd be happy to step aside so folks who are real interested are able to go. I mean, it's also offered to the vice mayor, so do you want to go?
I cannot attend.
Okay.
I can't take those days off work.
I was going to have to cancel class, so it's sort of... makes me a little more willing to step aside and not have to cancel my class. Yeah.
I could just also, my son, my youngest, lives in Long Beach, so if it was just about the hotel, I might be able to stay with him as well, if there are more than two of us.
Okay. Well, I think due to your work with Cal Cities and being a past mayor, I'd probably recommend that I can cede my seat and you can attend, and then we could appoint you as the voting delegate if you're comfortable with that. If you don't want to do it, we can make Damien do it. No. Okay.
I'm comfortable doing
I'm just
it.
kidding. Okay.
And hopefully we won't get any other resolutions on the floor, and that has happened, where people go around and try and get them on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, can I just ask, I'm not kidding about my son, like I really could stay with him. So Sylvia, did you want to go?
I do want to attend because I do plan on joining another committee, policy committee. So I did want to attend for that reason, but I understand that it's only 2 spots. So, if it's not possible, I don't have to go, but I would like to go too.
Okay, well, I'll definitely step aside because there's so much interest. So then we just need to work out, is it possible to just register somebody but without the hotel room and to send a third person? Or are we allowed to send 3 people to the conference?
Yeah, you could send
Could
as
send
many
the whole
people as
staff?
you want. Yeah.
Some cities, like Santa Rosa, they send all their council and a whole ton of staff.
Okay.
So, yes.
Is it possible to see if we can get 3 hotels rooms? And then if we can't, then I can see if I can stay with my son? I mean, I know you said it's hard, but
Yeah.
maybe maybe someone else canceled, I don't know, something.
Yeah, we could. It'd be a little bit of a bump, obviously, in the travel and training budget, but, we can, we're not talking huge dollars here, but it's, a couple thousand probably.
I'd be willing to share a room.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm happy to share too. Do you want to, what if Sylvia and I shared? Are you down for that? Is it okay with you?
I'm totally fine with it.
We'll share. No, I'm
Yeah.
serious, it's fine.
I mean, it's fine with me if you guys are okay with it, but.
Yeah, let's do that. There we go, then it's just 2. We still need the, travel, but we could just have 1 room. Will that work? Then you don't have to do anything with the hotel, right?
Right, yeah, it would just be a little bit of airfare, so that would be not very much.
Right.
Relative, yeah, the hotel's usually the most expensive part.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, so can somebody make a move? We have to do this by motion, right? Okay, can
Yes.
somebody make a motion to nominate Susan as the delegate? Okay.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to,
Oh, and we can, how many, I'm so sorry, how many alternates can we appoint?
Up to 2.
Okay, so do you both want to be alternates? Okay, sure. Okay.
okay, so I make a motion to appoint Councilmember Susan Harvey as a voting delegate, and Councilmember Rivers and Councilmember Lemus, myself, as alternates to the 2024 League of California Cities Annual Conference.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we've made those appointments unanimously. Do we need to take action about the packet, the resolution as well separately?
Yes, to provide direction to the voting delegate.
Direction?
yeah.
Okay.
And I would add, it would be helpful for the voting delegate to have a little bit of latitude for other resolutions that might appear at the last minute.
And I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I missed this resolution when I was looking through the packet, so I don't have a strong opinion on it.
I think it's good. I think it talked about even income limits as far as like state was different than local, jurisdiction. So I think it should be the same. I don't know if there's a reason why it shouldn't be, but I think we should have that option.
Yeah, I agree. It's very interesting that the state's making rulings over what the cities can do, but they don't have the same rulings for themselves. It really feels like it should be equal, and if ours has to get stronger or theirs has to get stronger, it should be that way, but That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, even some of the meetings, it looks like they have more leeway in some of their meetings than we have, so there's a lot of different things that are different that really make it harder for us to, when we're out, we can't meet where they can meet and not have Brown Act get in the way.
All right, so do we want to provide direction to support this resolution, or anybody have different thoughts about it? Yes.
I mean, I appreciate the general desire of it. I just, I think I'm fine with giving guidance to support this resolution, given that it's a resolution of the league, and realizing that were the state to actually adopt something, it would have to be massaged quite a bit, because there are differences between running a state and running a city, and the rules aren't going to be exactly the same. So the state would never adopt this exact language that we're calling on them to adopt, but the spirit is clear, and so I'm comfortable supporting it. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that is real interesting at the conference is they actually talk about this. There's a resolutions committee. And so hearing all the feedback from all the other cities and all the input is also very interesting and telling. So I usually will tend to go to those just to get additional input.
And I'm also comfortable with the delegate or the alternates having latitude to address things that come up as they see fit to serve Cotati best.
Okay, do we need a motion, or have we provided direction sufficiently?
I think typically for this item, it's just direction to the voting delegates. Yeah.
Clear? Yes. Okay. All right. All right, thank you, everybody. That is great, we're all done. So let's move on to the city manager's report.
Okay, so we have some neighborhood beat meetings coming up for the police department. They're planned for September 26th and September 30th, both at 6 p.m. in the police community room. And they're they've grouped some beats together. So for September 26th, it's beats 2, 5, and 6, and then September 30th, it's beats 1, 3, and 4. And if you go to the headline in the webpage, there's a link to the map. So if anyone's curious what beat they're in, they can find it there. So in addition to the sidewalk gap closure project awarded earlier this evening, we have more projects currently advertising for bids. This includes the Putnam Park Improvements Project, Phase 1, that will be coming in soon with bids, as well as the City Council Chamber audio-visual system upgrades. That's also coming in soon with bids. So expect to hear more on both those projects soon. As mentioned earlier tonight, the city is hosting the annual creek cleanup on Saturday the 21st of September from 10 to noon at 3 locations. So it's going to be at Pocket Park, at Benson Lane there, and Gravenstein Way. So there's 3 locations where the cleanup will be, and trash and recycling bins are located at each of these sites, as well as staff with 5-gallon buckets and trash grabbers who will be measuring the trash later. And this is to get to the conversation earlier, one of the soft, with behavioral change, you don't have to literally always be pulling bags off the end of outlets. You could also just be counting trash being pulled out of a creek. So that's coming up. As I mentioned earlier tonight, the Police Advisory Committee applications, those are out, and that closes on October 3rd, 5 p.m. The City of Cotati and Rohnert Park we're well on our way for the Pathways to Leadership Citizens Academy program. So that application period closed, and we have 4, coincidentally, we had 4 slots for Cotati residents, and we had 4 applications from Cotati residents. So we're doing good there. And the initial class is scheduled for October 3rd of this year. And we have, so just if you're curious, so one of the applicants is one of our planning commissioners, Ryan Long, and then the other 3 are people that I don't know. So that's good. We get some new people involved in these, trainings. And then this weekend, there's a housing fair at the Cotati Rohnert Park library. So Cotati and Runner Park, in partnership with the library, are hosting the Housing Fair this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Housing Fair will be located at the library, as I mentioned. So there's also these flyers around the chamber. That's what that's advertising. 120 East Cotati Avenue, that's the affordable housing site that the council purchased. So there's the first community meeting coming up on Wednesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. right here in these chambers. So this will be the first meeting for the proposed affordable housing development. It's an opportunity for the community to meet the project team, get information on project objectives and design, learn how to participate in the process, and maybe even get some answers to some questions answered. There's another flyer in the chamber here. That's this other one. That's the notice of the meeting, and so that's gone out wide, and it's coming up. The long-delayed e-bike share program should be doing a soft rollout at the end of the month. So we're all crossing our fingers and our legs and everything else that it's actually going to go forward. This has been because it's a multi-county effort. And then, as you guys all know, the original e-bike provider went out of business right when they're about to do their deployment. So it's been a long time coming. So there'll be a soft launch at the end of the month, and we're expecting an official announcement and an official launch date in the next month or so, I think, after that. It'll be in the near future. And then in the city of Cotati, this includes bike racks in La Plaza Park at the intersection of La Salle and East Cotati and at the train depot. And there's similar deployments happening on the same time frame up and down the rail line in Marin County and in Sonoma County, all the way up to Santa Rosa. On August 30th, we had our first Fall Open Ranch Youth Day at Veranda Flitty Ranch, and we had 60 people attend. The next one will be on September 20th from 4 to 5:30 p.m., and we're going to have lots of games, crafts, visits and animals, visits with the animals and more, and it's open to anyone. The program is open to anyone under 18 and their adult guardian, and pre-registration is preferred, but walk-ins are welcome. And the theme is Welcome Fall for the next one. On September 21st, we're going to be, in addition to the Creek Week cleanup, we're also hosting the first Grub in the Hub Food Festival and our last movies in the park, in the Plaza Park for the summer. The food festival will run from 3 to 7 p.m., followed by the free movie in the park. And we have about 20 vendors available for food or goods to purchase, live music from local bands, and the event's free for anyone to attend. All right, I'll skip over the Creek Week because we already talked about that, but that's September 21st, 10 to noon. And then we're also gearing up for October Fall Festival at the ranch and Cotati Candyland Trick or Treat event in downtown Cotati. So those are just around the corner, but just off in the near future. And I'll stop there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. I did have one question. Is the Affordable Housing Community meeting going to be recorded or anything?
That's the plan. Yeah, we were talking about
Okay.
that today. So
Cool.
the plan is to broadcast the presentation and then record it and then have it available later. But
Okay.
there'll be breakout groups and stuff that isn't really amenable to recording that won't be recorded.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to City Council member reports. Does anyone have? Yes.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank Mr. Gibran Ortega from Rancho Cotati High School for having the students come out and talk to us today. And just as a reminder that September 21st is the festival that they're holding at Rancho Cotati High School for the Fiestas Patrias, which is Independence Festival. That's going to be a great event. It's from, I think, 12 to 8 o'clock at night. Something like that. It's 2 to 9 o'clock. Thank you. My Sonoma Clean Power meeting was canceled, but I did go to Regional Parks Foundation meeting last week. And also, the Cotati Chamber had their meeting yesterday, which I missed it, but they do have a ribbon cutting coming up on October 9th. It's going to be at Luigi's Barbecue in combination with the Runner Park Chamber and the Cotati Chamber. And there's another one for Jersey Mike's having a ribbon. I don't know if I have a date for that, but I'll bring that next time once I have it. And also they're preparing for their holiday events. If you haven't gone to the Katati Crawl, that's a really fun one. I went last year. So just plan on going to some of those events that are coming up with our local Katati Chamber. That's what I have. Thank you.
Okay, first, let me get this one back up before I forget. There is a free e-waste recycling event this weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday from 9 to 5. It's in Rohnert Park at 540 Snyder Lane. So it's pretty simple. So Katati folks can go over there and get rid of their e-waste there. So I want to make sure that people got that. I attended the LAFCO meeting the other day, and finally, after 3 meetings, we finally approved the Valley of the Moon Water District service review and sphere of influence for a set of housing area that was over in the Valley of the Moon. It took us 3 times because the language in there kept alluding to that there was enough water, but there really isn't necessarily enough water based upon the fact that the county is working on the Springs Plan, and there's the Sonoma Development Center, and there's the Hannah Boys Center, all projects that aren't really accounted for in there. So I was not comfortable with the way they were dancing around, that there's enough water, given these are huge projects that are impacting them. And in particular, the Sonoma Development Center, they have an expectation that they think that the state will let them have the water rights for the water that's on there, and thus far, they haven't. Supervisor Gorin said she thinks that the reason that they're holding them back is that they want the developer to pay for them, but they did not give the rights, so to act like you have the water for that when you don't. So I felt comfortable on the 3rd go round that we put in enough places in the document that said that, but this doesn't include this and it doesn't include that, and it does, so that someone a few years from now looking at it and saying, well, gee, why did you include these 12 properties? And accept that there's enough caveats in there. So we did finally approve that. That was really pretty painful to go through. Yesterday was SCTA RCPA, and I have a few things from there that I think you'll be interested in. I think we got an email on this too, but the week of September 30th through October 6th is Week Without Driving, and it's a county-wide event, and I'm hoping, Damien, that we can put is that what you were holding up? Oh, okay. I'm hoping that we can put the information up on our website. I think that would be helpful to folks for that. The next is that they are actively working on the next comprehensive transportation plan, and so they are looking for input on that. There's a QR code that, again, I'm hoping we can put up on our website, and answering the survey, and that will go through next summer. So hopefully folks will get that. And you already mentioned the e-bike. They actually had to, because it's Sonoma and Marin, they did, that seemed kind of quirky, so they ultimately ending up calling it Redwood Bike Share, and it's a cute little logo that they came up with for those. And they said that the launch will be in 3 to 6 weeks. Damien says by the end of the month, but as of yesterday, they were saying 3 to 6 weeks. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are they going to have like a website on that Redwood Bike Share, or do you know?
I think it'll be an app. It's an app where you sign up, and
okay, cool.
It was interesting. There was a lot of discussion about because you can get a subscription where you pay monthly, and that allows you to unlock the bike, and it gives you 30 minutes a day. Other than that, you can do single use where you unlock the bike for $1, but then it's 25 cents a mile. So, depending upon, what your use is, it'll be interesting, because there was talk about that people, maybe they'll take a ride out to the coast, and, people are like going, not at 25 cents a mile. That's a big push. So there was discussion around as we get past this pilot, is there a way to kind of make that more enticing by lowering that price so that people can use it more? And Ariel Kelly talked about the bikes that they have in Healdsburg. I guess they have their own program, and they said that it's actually been very successful. So hopefully this sounds like there's a lot of interest in it, and hopefully we can get past the pilot and it will become a regular thing. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Reports over here.
I just want to thank you all for carrying on without me while I was sick with COVID. That COVID also cost me my chance to judge the chili and rib cook-off that the Rotary Club was hosting, so.
I don't have too much to report. I haven't had meetings, just that I'm going to be contacting the Library Commission applicants this week. So that's in progress. That's all I had to report. Okay, if that's all, then we'll now do.
Can I just share one last
yeah,
thing?
Of course.
I got my Peanuts library card. It's updated, so it's a new one. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's a new one that just came out.
That's cute. Oh, thank you. Okay, we'll open it up to public comment on non-action agenda items. There's no one in the council, so let's go to Zoom, or no one in the chambers.
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Lori, you have the floor.
First, I wanted to, it's sort of a question for the chief, but we've had a conversation about changing the beat meetings to more neighborhood watch and integration and all that. And I wanted to get whether that was anything, because what happens in beat 2, it's me getting on Zoom with an officer, always. So it needs to be a different format. And also neighborhood watch. We do have neighborhood watch on the west side, and it needs to be integrated into the plan. So I wanted to check with that. And this is a general statement. I'm getting so tired of all of you on the council negating every comment I make. Everyone, especially Susan Harvey, the last few meetings, and I am very tired of it. And you're going to lose the only person who has the guts to get on here. You don't have anybody in the room because of your behavior, and you don't have anybody on Zoom. So you need to examine how you act towards the citizens of this town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Can you address, Police Chief? I thought that the meetings were going to be in person this time in the community room. Is that accurate? Or
that is accurate. They are in person, and we welcome everybody to come. And the neighborhood watch component is a component of the topics that we'll be talking about during those meetings.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I do not mean to negate your comment by saying that. I was just trying to make sure, because I think, it is in a different format now, and want to make sure that information gets out to you and to everybody. Okay.
Yeah, we're done with the Zoom format for that, so everything will be in person.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, was there any information received after the agenda was posted?
Thank you, Mayor Sparks. Yes, there were, I believe, a total of 3 comments submitted on item 12B, the intersection, and there was 1 comment about the week without driving that was received. I should say there was also a 4th, very brief comment also received about item 12B, but it was received so close to the meeting time that I did not have time to get that printed out. It was essentially supporting the letter that Neil Hancock had written. So I will provide that to you all after the meeting. It was literally a 1 line, but basically supporting the letter. And that's what was received. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to everybody. With that, we will adjourn the meeting tonight.